Welcome to If These Walls Could Talk. I'm your host and super CEO, Lindsay Liu. Joining me today is Sarah Hull, the COO of DoorGrow. Today, she helps property management executives grow their operational capacity, which is a skill set that was informed from her prior life as a property manager overseeing over 260 doors. For today's episode, Sarah goes back in time to tell us about one of her more surprising discoveries in a newly vacant unit. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit more about how you first came across this discovery, and feel free to give us some context around your portfolio and this property.
Yeah, so for a little bit of context, I was managing about 260 properties. They were C-class properties, so not great. And I was able to do this remotely. So in the middle, it didn't start out remotely. I was there for quite a while. And then I moved in the middle of the pandemic for the 2 weeks. So then I just kind of stayed. And I was managing this portfolio remotely. And one of the stories that sticks with me again and again, just when I had thought, oh, I've experienced so much in property management, I think it will take a lot to shock me. Here we are. So we had this 10-unit building. And so one building, kind of like apartments all lined up in a row. And this one apartment, the tenants were rough. They were a bit troublesome. And the one tenant, she had just moved out. She actually committed herself into rehab. So I knew she was gone, which left just the male tenant. And we were trying to communicate with him. He would never get back in touch with us. We had been into the unit a couple of times, so we knew he was still living there and just was not responsive. So after a bit, one of the tenants that was a few doors down calls me and says, hey, did you hear about this tenant? And I had said, no, what do you mean did I hear? And she said, oh, he passed away. He actually passed away. It was from an overdose, not in the property. It was outside of the property. And I thought, oh my gosh, like, no, I had no idea. I said, is there next of kin? So I'm, now trying to deal with all of this. There was no one. And I'm thinking, okay, well, now we just, it's a vacant unit. We're going to go in, do our thing, figure out does it need work, do some rent ready, and take care of it from there. Maybe 3 days later, one of the other tenants calls me and says, hey, so you heard about this tenant? I said, yes, I heard. And I'm really sad about that. And she said, oh, well, I'm glad that you know. What are you doing about the dogs? And I said, well, what dogs? And she said, oh, he has dogs. And I said, no, he does not. Every time I've been in the apartment, I've never seen dogs, not. And she goes, no, he's a dog breeder. So I'm thinking, okay. So he had these two, I think they were golden retrievers, and he bred them, and then he would sell the puppies for some extra income. And I said, well, where are the dogs right now? And she said, well, they're in his apartment. We can hear them barking and barking and barking. And they are incessantly barking. And I thought, oh, now we have this whole other problem that we have to deal with right now. So at the time, I was not there physically. So I called my assistant, who's my boots on the ground. She was my right-hand girl. And I said, hey, so we have a bit of an issue. We have to go in and figure out what's going on with possible dogs in the apartment. And she said, but every time we were there, we didn't see dogs. And I said, well, I guess they're there now. So let's go figure that out. So she drives up to the property and she's standing outside and she can hear them barking and barking. Keys don't work because, of course, what tenant would not change the locks? So keys don't work. And she calls me panicking and she says, what am I supposed to do? Like, there's dogs in there. They're probably starving. It's been like 2 or 3 days. I don't know who's taking care of them, if anybody is, but I don't think they are being taken care of. So I said, well, okay, hang tight. We're going to figure out what to do, but we have to get in that apartment. We have to get the dogs out. So I called the local animal shelter. I actually called the SPCA, and I let them know what the situation was. And they said, we will come out right now. We will come. We will send someone out. Where is it? So I give them the address. They said, wonderful. We have somebody on the way right now. And I said, okay, that's great. So now at least we have a place and somebody to take care of these poor dogs. And my assistant, so I call her back and I said, hey, the SPCA is on the way. And in the meantime, I had also called the police. So we had a police dispatch, and then we had the fire trucks show up. So there was a whole party on the
Whole
property.
brigade.
Oh yeah, whole party, and everyone was going, well, how do we get in, and do we break a window? And the fire department showed up, and they were ready to just bust the door down. They're like, we'll bust it, no problem. And my assistant says, I don't know if we should bust the door down. Let's wait, maybe let me call my boss. And she just was not sure how to handle the situation at all, but she knew that she didn't want to damage the property if we didn't have to. So I said, well, all right, let's see if there's another way to enter the property. Did they leave a window unlocked? Is there a back door? On the back side of the property, there was a little patio with one of those sliding glass doors. Like, is there another way to get into the property? And she found a window that was left about this much open. So she stuck her fingers in it and she's lifting the window up. She crawled in through the window, came through and unlocked the door. So now everybody gets into the apartment. These poor dogs had been in there for a couple of days. There were puppies. I think there were 9 puppies in there, plus the mother and the father. And they had been obviously hungry. So they had started eating things like the cabinets and anything that they could really get into, they were trying to get into. Obviously, big mess. Big mess. But I said to my assistant, she was taking videos and pictures of herself, and she's like, this is the best day. I
Either
said,
way, she's surrounded by puppies.
yes, this is going to be the best day of your career in property management, is dealing with all of the puppies.
Very quickly, where was this property? So you were living in Texas at the time. Where was this property?
All of my portfolio was in Pennsylvania.
Okay. So quite a long distance away.
Yes, quite a bit.
How are you thinking? So, this is all happening. You're on the phone, obviously, trying to figure this all out. I'm sure trying to be cool, calm, and collected to help your assistant stay on top of all of it. What was going through your mind at that moment when you were just kind of uncovering step by step by step that this situation was just getting more out of hand?
Yeah. So the first thing I was thinking is, like, I had no idea that there were dogs in the apartment. There was never any indication that he had dogs at all. And all of a sudden, the neighbor is telling me, oh, well, what are you doing about the dogs? So that was my main concern, was, oh my gosh, I just hope that the dogs are okay. Hopefully they have some food and some water and they're taken care of. And then my other concern was, well, what do we do with 11 dogs? Because I don't know what to do with them. Like, how do we take, so thank God for the SPCA because
We'll
they
give a
just
shout
stepped
out
right
to
up.
the
They're like, we'll
Pennsylvania
take them.
ASPCA. Yep.
Yeah, thank you. So, and they came right away. So that was really helpful that they sent people out right away, and they came and they, did a welfare check on the dogs and made sure all of them were healthy. None of them had any kind of injuries or problems, nothing like that. So I'm just grateful that we got there in time for that.
That's amazing. Um, I'm assuming then you weren't able to adopt any of the dogs. Did anyone
No,
from your team?
no, she did not. She wanted to very, very badly, but the apartment she was living in didn't allow any more animals than she had at that point. So
Well,
we just
clearly
had
some
to,
people are able to get around that rule.
very clearly, yes, yes, if you start breeding.
How did that inform? I'm just curious, you've obviously got a pet policy in place, I'm sure, and you're discovering all of this. How did this inform how you were thinking about like tenant welfare checks or, unit checks in the future.
Yeah, so we were always, and especially in a portfolio like that, you have to be on top of inspections. You can't, there are certain portfolios that you may not need to do an inspection as often, and sometimes you can even let the tenants do their own inspections. This was not a portfolio like that at all. So in rougher areas and rougher properties with a little bit rougher class tenants, it just takes a lot more work. So we always did a minimum of 2 inspections a year. And that was the thing that I have no idea where these dogs
Where did
came
you put
from,
them?
because every time that we had gone into the property, I mean, my team was trained to look like, don't just look for an animal, but look for signs of an animal. So, is there food? Is there a bowl out? Is there a litter box? Are there cat or dog toys? Are there crates or cages or blankets that don't seem to make sense in the room? And there was never any indication. So, I'm wondering if at some point he had this off site and then maybe he brought the dogs in for a period of time. I'm just grateful that he did, because
Then you found them.
we found them and
Yeah.
were able to save them. If they had been off site wherever they were before, I don't know what would have happened, being that he passed away. But that was one thing that we definitely had to keep in mind moving forward. And I think the real thing that saved us here is having a good relationship with the tenants in the building, because had that one tenant not said anything, I never would have known. The dogs would have been barking and something awful would have happened. So thankfully, that other tenant had called and said, "Hey, what about the dogs? What are you doing?" So I'm really, really grateful for that. So if you do have rougher properties in your portfolio, then just kind of always maintain that professionalism and try to have a good relationship with the tenants. Not that you need to be friends with them, you don't need to take them out for a beer, but just so that you can maintain this professionalism and be able to have a trusting relationship on both ends. That will help you a lot, because you would be very surprised what tenants will tell you about other tenants or about the building, or things that you would never have known before. So if you want them in your corner.
Um, well, lucky dogs that they had you as the as the managing agent. Did your assistant continue with you after all of that?
Oh, she did. Yeah, she did. And then she would always refer back to that. And she was like, "That, can we have more days like that?"
More puppy days.
I want more puppy days. She sent me pictures and videos of her, and they were all just crawling all around her and licking her face. And she's like, "I love my job."
That's amazing. Let's see, is there anything else that you want to share about this story before we wrap?
I think just thank you so much to the SPCA, because, oh man, other than that, I would have had to figure out what to do with 11 dogs. So thank you for all of the help. I want to thank the police and the fire department as well. My assistant was really on top of things, so that was really amazing, and really to the other tenants in that building who had communicated the issue in the first place. So a team effort saved the day.
For sure. And I think that is such an important thing in the industry. You have to know the right people, right? Know who to be able to call in that moment of emergency and make sure that they're going to be, the right folks to take care of that job in the moment.
Yes, absolutely.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing your story with us today. You're obviously an expert in more things than just how to contact and take care of puppies. So, how can people get in touch with you if they have any questions for you about your management background or about DoorGrow?
Oh, yeah. You can always contact us if you wanted to go to doorgrow.com. There's some contact us buttons. If you wanted to book a call, you can do that. If you wanted to reach me directly, email would be a great way to do that. It's Sarah, SARAH, at doorgrow.com. And you have to put the H, otherwise, it will not come to me. So make sure you spell it the right way, and that's how you can get in touch with me directly.
Perfect. Sarah with an H. Well, thank you again, Sarah. That is today's episode of If These Walls Could Talk. Super is the AI-powered communication and workflow tool for property managers. To learn more about Super, visit us at www.hiresuper.com. To share a story you have for a future episode, email us at hello@hiresuper.com.